So today we'll be filming about Ice Open 4 course book, Unit 5, titled Stuff We Like. So let's have a quick look at the unit aims first. So after we finish this units, we're supposed to talk about what objects are used for and what they are useful, understand articles about useful and important inventions, talk about simple processes, understand a radio port, about unusual inventions, and buy gadgets, write an online review. So there are 4 items of vocabulary in which there is modifiers, which we'll be looking into closely, and there are 2 language focus items, in other words, grammar points. So today we'll be focusing on the first language focus part, which is the passive. So let's get started. So on page 55 in your course book, and further details on page 103, you'll be studying the passive in 3 tenses. So if we start the topic with the question, why passive, when to use passive? So either it's not important to know who does the action, who did the action, or we don't need to know who does the action, who did the action. So in this case, we use passive. Okay? And there are some further details regarding the passive. So we need to keep in mind that the object of the active sentence is the subject of the passive. So this is so important. You should keep this in mind while converting an active sentence into passive. The object of the active sentence is the subject of the passive. As in the example, I will complete the homework. The homework is the object here. So there may arise a question such like, teacher, how do we find the object in the sentence? What is very important to ask to find the object out in an active sentence? So this part is very important. You need to ask what question, the question word what, to be able to find out the object in an active sentence so that it can be converted into a passive sentence. So let's take a closer look. The homework, which was a small case, is the object of the active. So the homework, which is now capitalized, turned out to be the subject of the passive. Okay, these parts are very important. So the homework will be completed. So the homework, which is capitalized, is the subject of the passive sentence. And we will take a closer look into the forms of these 3 tenses about how we will make a passive sentence. So here, the core point of the passive is verb to be, let's add this, plus verb 3. In other words, past participle. So here again, there may arise such a question, where am I supposed to find these past participles of these verbs? So you're supposed to either memorize the irregular verbs list, or you need to learn them. So when it comes to passive, you're supposed to learn them by heart. There's no other chance for you to use them in other way. So, some quick notes to keep in mind. So let's start with the present one. Present simple. While we are making a passive sentence in present simple, is or are plus verb 3 is supposed to be used. So the homework is completed. Pay attention, please. In all tenses, you're supposed to use past participle form, which means you will make continuous use of these verb 3 forms. Okay, so here is very important to pay attention to. The homework is completed. As you see, is used as a auxiliary verb because it is referring to present simple, and it's followed by completed, which is verb 3 form. If it is not irregular verb, but a regular verb, so it's supposed to be completed either with D, ED, or IED forms of the verbs. So, same like present simple, past simple is supposed to be formed in the same way. So, the different point here is, instead of is or are, we are supposed to use was or were. The homework was completed. As you see, is was converted into was. Why? Because we are making a sentence in past simple. So what are the auxiliary verbs in past simple? Either was or were, followed by verb 3. When it comes to future simple, so will be plus verb 3. So in this way, as we have just pointed out in the lesson explanation below, it was made in future simple form, and the sentence was, the homework will be completed. As you see, right after the subject, the homework, you're supposed to use future will plus verb to be plus verb 3, which is past participle form of the irregular verbs. Let's have a closer look at the uses of different tenses in passive. So here in this exercise, we are matching the rules from 1 to 3 with the sentences above. So a small hole is cut in the roof, standing for present simple positive passive sentence. Motor lamps aren't used in the UK, while standing for a negative present simple passive. How much electricity is saved with these lamps? Standing for the question present simple passive sentence. So here, past simple now. Their homes were often left in the dark. Positive sentence. It wasn't invented by a famous scientist. A negative sentence in simple passive. Was any special equipment needed to make it? So this is for question in past simple passive. And now future will. The light will be carried through the water. It's again for positive, passive for future. Normal light bulbs won't be completely replaced by Moser lamps, while this is standing for future negative passive. Will Moser lamps be used in the new school? It's standing for future question. And the rules now. Let's pay attention to the sentences and let's try to match. We use the passive when it isn't important to know who is responsible for the action. While we are forming the passive, we use the verb to be plus past participle, as it was pointed out in the presentation, remember, okay? And when we want to say who's responsible for an action in the passive, we use the preposition by. In other words, we call it the agent. There is one more important point that we need to keep in mind. Whatever the tense is in the active sentence, we need to stick to it in the passive sentence, which means various companies, as in the example, second example, various companies developed a number of different types of plastic over the next 70 years. So this is an example of a past simple active sentence. Why active sentence? Because here we know who does or who did the action. Who did the action? Various companies. And which tense is it? Past simple. Why? Because of the ed that is attached to the end of the verb. And to be able to find the object in this active sentence, what am I supposed to do? As it was pointed out before, that I need to ask what question. I need to ask what question because it's an active sentence. Then doing this, what am I supposed to do? I'll find the object of the active sentence. What will I use it for? I will use it for making, or let's say finding the subject of the passive. Let's ask the what question to the sentence. What did various companies develop over the next 70 years? The answer, they developed a number of different types of plastic. So here I found the object of the active sentence by asking what question. Because I found it, now it's time to start the passive sentence with the one that I found. What was the thing that I found? It was object of the active sentence. So a number of different types of plastic were developed over the next 70 years. It was very simple, as you see. Here, what I did first was to find the object of the active sentence. And then I determined that the sentence was in past simple, and accordingly I used verb plus verb 3. Verb 3 is here developed. Such like the other examples in the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth will be done in this way. Take a closer look into the fourth and the fifth sentences, and even the sixth one. So what we see there in the fourth sentence, we see the verb consume, which is typed in bold. So here I conclude that this sentence is in present simple. So the fifth one will replace. We take a closer look into the verbs. That's why it's easier to find out what tense it is. Will replace, it is in future simple. About the sixth one, won't sell is used. Won't sell is the future simple but in negative form. And in all these sentences, what I can do is to ask what question. Why am I doing so? I want to find the object of the active sentence. So what? So once I found it, it's easier to start to make a passive sentence. Don't forget, stick to the tenses that are used in the sentences. Didn't introduce, past simple, consume, present simple, will replace, future simple, won't sell, again, future simple but in negative form. The previous exercise was more like controlled activity. Here in this third exercise, it seems a free activity, which means here you need to produce something. You need to show your skills about how to differentiate between passive and active. So let's start with the first sentence. These running shorts, made or are made? So here I need to focus on this sentence because I need to know whether it's a passive sentence or an active sentence. Because these running shorts, the sentence starts with, so I concluded that this is a passive sentence. These running shorts are made. Can you believe it? They are not only great to look at, but a special chemical in the coffee means that they also protect you from the sun. What protects you from the sun? A special chemical in the coffee means that they also protect you from the sun. What a great recycling idea. Recycled plastic bottle tops, used or were used to make this pretty curtain. So here again, I need to decide whether to use an active sentence or a passive one. Recycled plastic bottle tops. So here, I conclude that this should be again a passive. Why? Because recycled plastic bottle tops cannot do anything on their own. They cannot be who or what does the action or did the action. That's why I concluded that this should be a passive sentence. At this point, guys, I strongly recommend you to focus on workbook. Go over them one more time. Go over the exercises one more time. So once you have some questions, feel free to ask to your English teachers. Second thing that I want to point out is the Cambridge online practice website. So here is the website. In this website, just by logging in with your Facebook account or Google account, you can start to do as many exercises as possible until you fully grasp the topic. So that's all for the topic today.